At least half and possibly as many as 70% of the 1.6 million farm workers in America are undocumented immigrants. Reports in the past year of vegetables and fruit rotting in fields and orchards for lack of hands to harvest them have failed to give Congress sufficient impetus to act. Look for the labor shortages and instances of rotting produce to grow more acute next year. That was all in the Washington Post. Written over 3 years ago, yet politicians continue to posture and fail miserably in solving the real problems facing our nation. In the meantime, immigrants want to work, care for their families, and contribute to their communities. This is not a crisis of an economic drain by undocumented immigrants, as we hear so often by these far right-wing pundits and by people who seem to get all of their information from Rush Limbaugh or his ilk, rather than actually looking at the reports, the studies that have been done. The fact is, the claim that undocumented immigrants cost more in government services than they contribute to our economy is patently false. Although undocumented immigrants are entitled to emergency medical care, God forbid, and they are subject to financial and category eligibility even to get that medical care, and their children are entitled, as everyone in this country should be, to elementary and secondary public education. The thing that so many people in this country seem not to understand is that these millions of undocumented people in our country are barred from other government benefits, including food stamps, temporary assistance to needy families, Medicaid, federal housing programs, supplemental security income, unemployment insurance, Social Security, Medicare, and the Earned Income Tax Credit. They get none of those benefits from our government, and they put in a whole lot more to our system that they are never able to take out. Just consider, undocumented immigrants contribute about $3 billion or more annually in Social Security and unemployment insurance alone, yet they receive none of that back. And on top of that, undocumented immigrants pay billions of dollars in federal, state, and local taxes annually. The bottom line, without question, is that undocumented immigrants pay far more into public coffers than they ever cost in public services. So, we in this country need the labor supply.
That's right. Yeah.
Undocumented workers create more jobs because besides being workers, they are consumers, and Arizona's finding that out by the billions of dollars they're going to lose because of what they've done. And undocumented immigrants contribute far more than they cost. So what really is the problem? About the best anti-immigrants can do when they won't admit their racism, when faced with the facts, is lament that the law is being broken. They complain, and when I used to have my office on the 3rd floor here, I used to get these letters every day. What part of illegal don't you understand? They would so mindlessly repeat. Well, first of all, it's tragic that they supposedly care so much about the rule of law when it has to do with people of different ethnic origins taking measures that will enable them to work and take care of their families. But they blindly support, apparently, wholly illegal crimes against peace, which cost hundreds of thousands of lives and trillions of dollars from our nation's treasury. And it appears that they also support war crimes, which are illegal under both international law and United States domestic law. Will they stand for the rule of law and accountability for war crimes? No! Or for anti-immigrants? Are we to be concerned about the rule of law only in cases of people using false Social Security numbers so they can work and provide for their families? When insisting on strict adherence to the rule of law, we must all put this situation in an honest, historical perspective. We're not starting with a clean slate. Notwithstanding the simple-minded approach of the "what part of illegal don't you understand" crowd, we are facing a very complex situation brought about by decades of government and corporate collusion that resulted in millions of people coming to our country without legal documentation, reasonably expecting, because of the de facto policies and approach of our government, that it was all right for them to do that. It was the kind of collusion reflected by the help wanted posters put up by U.S. companies on the south side of the Mexican-U.S. border. The type of collusion that equated to a wink and a nod to immigrants, letting them know they would be able to work in certain segments of our economy without any adverse repercussions to them and their families. It is now unjust and hypocritical to having enticed millions of people to come to our country to help build up our economy, enrich thousands of corporations, and have immigrants pay billions of dollars in taxes and Social Security, then midstream, because of fear-mongering pundits, politicians, and informed members of the public, pull the rug out from under those who have lived otherwise lawfully, worked hard, and been contributors to their families and communities. Why did Ronald Reagan lead the way toward an amnesty for undocumented workers? Why did George W. Bush advocate a means for undocumented workers to stay in the United States and continue working? It's because they knew of the advantages to U.S. businesses and to our economy from immigrants working and building their families and their lives in this country, both documented and undocumented. If we recognize how and why undocumented immigrants are in our nation, we can fashion legal reforms to permit those who have led otherwise law-abiding lives and their families to stay in the United States to work and contribute. We can also, by taking these steps, know exactly who is here and prosecute or deport those who have otherwise violated our laws. These reforms, allowing all otherwise law-abiding immigrants to come out from the shadows without fear of prosecution and deportation, will vastly enhance our nation's security, enabling us to know exactly who is here and who needs to leave. We can also make certain that we have the labor force we need for all segments of our economy, with fewer and fewer people of working age to take care of retiring baby boomers, particularly to meet the skyrocketing demands of Social Security and Medicare. Every baby boomer And every younger person who will be carrying a heavier and heavier Social Security and Medicare load should be urging more immigrants to join the United States workforce in order to help meet the demands for more contributors into these retirement programs. Our interests, and when I say our interests, I mean every single person in this country, all merge at the point of a compassionate, reasoned approach to immigration reform without hostility, without bigotry, and without the divisions that this issue is unnecessarily causing throughout our great nation. We are at a crossroads where we can, as a society and as individuals, choose the path of meanness, contempt, and bigotry, or we can choose the high road of reason, opportunity, and compassion. Let us come together and do so much better as a nation of people who recognize the reality of how we got where we are today, and who will seek justice and unity rather than hostility and division, working towards solutions of which we can all be proud as Americans, as immigrants or descendants of immigrants, and as men and women who embrace a higher morality and humanity. Rejoicing in the grand opportunities we have before us, and exercising greater understanding, a more generous spirit, and a deeper compassion toward our brothers and sisters, it can be done. Si se puede.